But at this point, we have to just come to the realization that Donald Trump is showing his true colors, that Donald Trump is at his core, at his heart, a racist, bigoted, evil, hateful person. And now that we've realized that he is showing it every single day with every single tweet, what are we going to do about it? It's enough is enough. We do not have a president, a leader. We have an empty suit sitting in the office masquerading as a president, because what he's doing is not at all presidential.
Here in the U.S. and President Trump picking up where he left off in the battle over Baltimore, and again doubling down on his criticism against prominent black lawmaker Elijah Cummings and his majority black district. A day after heated rhetoric from the president referred to Baltimore as, quoting here, rat-infested mess, and that no human being would want to live there. And in a new attack today, Trump tweeted that it's sad that Cummings has done so little for the people of Baltimore, and even went on to accuse Democrats of playing the race card. Well, today, lawmakers denounced the president's racially charged tweets.
Our president has a hate agenda. He doesn't have a policy agenda, and that's what he falls down on.
I absolutely think it's important for us to call it out for what it is, which is racism.
The president is, as he usually is, or often is, disgusting and racist.
Okay, so it didn't stop there. Maryland lawmakers and residents responded with anger, and in a passionate editorial, the Baltimore Sun newspaper defending Cummings, saying it's better to have vermin in your neighborhood than to be one. Ouch. Okay, joining me right now is MSNBC's Hans Nichols, who is outside the White House. And Hans, it looks like this fight is kind of heating up. The president is not backing down from all of this. Right. So basically, what's his administration saying today about this rhetoric and the backlash?
Well, there are two things going on here, Candace. Number one is we have a presidential strategy. We don't know what's behind that strategy. It's the president's own impulses. We don't know how long he thought about this, whether it was purely reactive. And then we also have administration officials going out and trying to offer a rationale for what the president does. Those two things might not be related. Simply because officials are on the Sunday shows talking about why the president is doing something doesn't necessarily mean that that was the impetus. That's why the president is doing it. That said, let's listen to how Mick Mulvaney is explaining away what the president is doing.
Well, you know, though, that this is a majority black district. And when the president calls it rat-infested, he says no human being would live there. Do you understand that that is offensive to the Americans who do live there?
I understand that everything that Donald Trump says is offensive to some people. Keep in mind, about 2 weeks ago, the president said things that were critical of AOC and her squad and was immediately accused of being a racist. A couple days later, Nancy Pelosi said some things critical of that same group of people, and she was defended by the media and by folks on the left for not being racist. When Donald Trump...
No human being would want to live there.
When Donald Trump attacks people...
This is being perceived as racist. Do you understand why?
I understand why, but that doesn't mean that it's racist. The president is pushing back against what he sees as wrong. It's how he's done in the past, and he'll continue to do it in the future.
So basically, Candace, that's a warning, and that is if you're going to go after the president either through legitimate investigations or through rhetoric, the president will hit back. That seems to be the justification that White House officials are offering, that the president is essentially counterpunching, he's going back, he's retaliating. Now, one thing that is also clear about this is that the president likes these debates. We saw him start off a couple weeks ago with the 4 members of the squad, those 4 lawmakers of color. And at a certain moment, maybe even a candid moment on the South Lawn, the president said, I don't know whether or not this helps me politically. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's clear he likes to do it. One thing that's also clear, we're all talking about the president going after a lawmaker from Baltimore and the state of the city of Baltimore. Candace?
Hans Nichols there at the White House. I appreciate it. Let's bring in the panel right now. Joining me is Christine Pelosi, who's a Democratic strategist and the daughter of the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. Omarosa Manigault-Newman, former White House senior advisor, and Rick Tyler, MSNBC political analyst and Republican strategist. Welcome to all of you guys. What a day to be alive and to be here. Omarosa, first to you. You have called the president racist in the past before he said anything about the squad or the city of Baltimore. What do you make of him doubling down on these remarks?
Well, first of all, you know, this debate about whether what he said is racist or not, it really becomes a point where America has to decide, is this a person that they want to lead them? And we have to really decide also, what are we going to do about his racist statements and his racist actions? And I believe that America is going to say enough is enough. Having sat at the table with Mick Mulvaney and Donald Trump and listened to the type of rhetoric that they spew about Americans, it is very clear that this president is a president of a select few and not all. He took an oath of office to represent everyone in this country, from Baltimore to California to Michigan, and he is failing at that. And as a result, I believe that Donald Trump will not be re-elected again come next fall.
Interesting prediction. You made the right prediction previously that he would be elected. Christine, of course, your mother is the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. You guys live out in San Francisco, but Nancy Pelosi is from Baltimore. She tweeted that Cummings was a champion for civil rights and that we all reject racist attacks against him. And in response, the president tried to drag her district into the fray, tweeting that the conditions in San Francisco are failing badly and unrecognizable as well. As you know as well, your grandfather represented the 3rd district there in Baltimore area, and he was the mayor of that city. What's your gut reaction to this?
My gut reaction is, as April Ryan was having us all tweet yesterday, we are Baltimore. My Uncle Tommy was also the mayor. Happy birthday, Uncle Tommy. His birthday was last week. My mom and sisters were with him. And we're very proud of our Baltimore roots. We're very proud of the civil rights tradition that comes out of Baltimore. And look, Donald Trump has been a racist for many, many decades. We all know this. When my Uncle Tommy was mayor of Baltimore and working with Martin Luther King, they had such a thing as an I Am American parade. And he told me years later that he was booed from one end of the parade to the other because their definition of an American wasn't somebody working with Martin Luther King to integrate Baltimore. But it was his vision, and that remains the vision of the vast majority of Americans. We know that we have a racist past. We know that we have to move forward as a country. And we know that demography is destiny. The nation is changing. That's why Democrats, including the daughter of Baltimore, Nancy Pelosi, my representative and Speaker of the House from San Francisco, led the recruitment of candidates representing that new demography. We have the most diverse Congress in the history of the United States, led by the House Democratic majority, a majority women, people of color, LGBTQ Americans. Okay. They are holding Donald Trump accountable. He doesn't want anyone holding him accountable. But he especially can't take it when it's women and people of color like Nancy Pelosi and Elijah Cummings. That's why he's trying to distract with the racism, but we're not going to let it happen.
Rick, I do need to get you to weigh in on all of this, but first, here was Congressman Will Hurd a little bit earlier.
I think these tweets are different than the ones from a few days ago. When you tell someone to go back to Africa or whatever country, that's in essence telling someone because you don't look like them that you are not American and that you do not have self-worth. My style is to talk about what unites us, not what divides us. I think that is something that's better long run.
Will Hurd, the only African-American Republican in the House of Representatives. But Rick, you're a Republican. Do you get the sense that this is all to gin up the base for the president? What's at play here?
The president clearly wants to have this fight. He's choosing Elijah Cummings for a reason. And he didn't just mention Elijah Cummings, he specifically mentioned the city of Baltimore. The city of Baltimore, by the way, is one of the great American cities. It has one of the greatest medical facilities. Johns Hopkins is the best known. Yeah,
right within that district, for Cummings district.
Yeah, it has a world-class aquarium. As Casey Hunt will tell you, they have a great baseball team. I'm not going to go that far. It's a wonderful city, and that district is 59% African American. Its average median income is $11,000 higher than the rest of the country. It's a very educated district. So everything Donald Trump tried to portray about and say about it, about the African Americans who live there, is just flat out false. What Donald Trump should know about rat-infested places is he inherited $500 million from his father, who made his living as a slumlord of rat-infested places. So, and what has Donald Trump tried to do to help people who can't afford public housing? Absolutely nothing. So he's a hypocrite, as usual.
But Rick, how do Republicans continue to defend this sort of racial and divisive language.
Listen, I've given up on that. There's no Republican Party anymore. It's not recognizable as a Republican Party. It's a Trump party. I don't know if the Republican Party will ever revive itself or ever come back. The current party, I don't want anything to do with the Trump party. And so it's just sad because the Republican Party, I think, has a great history and a great story, and it's destroyed now. I mean, it's not. It shouldn't be attractive, in my opinion, to anybody, and I think that's sad, and I think that's sad for the two-party system that we have.
Yeah. All right. Omarosa, I mean, you've been there in the White House. You've been there in the Oval Office with the president. Give me a sense into the mind of the man, or into the heart of the man. I mean, what's behind all these tweets, these racial tweets?
Well, it's an excellent question. You know, the Bible says that your words reflect what's in your heart. And Donald Trump does not have a heart for leadership, a heart for leading diverse people or diverse communities. And, you know, some of the stories that have come out about him referring to African countries as S-hoes, and how he treated Puerto Rico, and how you see him going after African-American members of Congress, whether it's Maxine Waters or, in this case, Representative
Do you think
Cummings.
Stephen Miller is behind this as well?
I think that it is very... One more time?
Do you think Stephen Miller's behind this rhetoric?
Well, you know, we used to blame, point to Steve Bannon or Stephen Miller. But at this point, we have to just come to the realization that Donald Trump is showing his true colors, that Donald Trump is at his core, at his heart, a racist, bigoted, evil, hateful person. And now that we've realized that he is showing it every single day with every single tweet, what are we going to do about it? It's enough is enough. We do not have a president, a leader. We have an empty suit sitting in the office masquerading as a president, because what he's doing is not at all presidential.
Christine, do you think that the comments that he made about the district that you live in, that your mother represents, or is it just him trying to say, see, I'm not being racially charged here with my tweet about that black neighborhood in the Baltimore area? Look, I'm targeting San Francisco.
Well, let's back up a minute. You opened the segment by showing video of Mick Mulvaney trying to say something that wasn't true about Elijah Cummings. Let's be clear. Elijah Cummings is investigating the president. He is subpoenaing the emails. I seem to remember when many networks, including this one that we're on, made a big deal about Hillary Clinton's personal emails and so Elijah Cummings is subpoenaing those personal emails of the president's top advisors who are members of his family, including his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who has operating apartments that have infestation themselves in Baltimore and other places. Also, Elijah Cummings spoke with passion twice last week. Once when he talked about calling the Border Patrol head to task about children in cages. And let's be real, we're not caging Norwegians. We're caging black and brown people. And that's what Elijah Cummings was confronting him with. That was the truth. And the second thing that Elijah Cummings did after Robert Mueller testified was say, this is a moment when we're dancing with the angels. People will ask us, what did you do? What did you do to stop what was happening in this country? So we have a president working for Putin, not for us. And they always bring up this scarcity argument. They were fine with the $1 trillion tax cut for corporations, but they're not fine with helping poor people. So every single time Democrats talk about conditions at the border, every single time Democrats will say we need to do something for humane immigration, Trump will bring up, well, why don't we take care of homeless people too? Well, you know what? Here's a radical thought. Why don't we take care of everybody? Why don't we, instead of making a scarcity argument, make a community argument that we can welcome human beings into our country in a humane way, and that we can solve the problems in our own communities with some help, not racism from the president.
Listen, I've been to the Charm City many times, the Charm City of Baltimore. It has its issues, but it is a beautiful place. Christine, you know it very well, so does Omarosa and Rick Tyler. Thank you, guys. Rick Tyler will be back with us a little bit later on.